Hello guys, welcome back to John's Workshop, and in this video we're going to be making a vice stop. And you can see on the board behind me, oh apologies for our friends the other side of the water, a vise stop. So, bit of a laugh, that always makes me smile. So I've done a quick bit of sort of designing, and this is taken from Pieczynski, who I'm sure most of you who watch me will already watch. I saw this on an elaborate array of Kurt vices he's got on his milling machine. I don't think he's got much room left on his table, so he won't be going to 5 vices, but I think last time I saw he'd got 4 vices stacked on his table, and he'd got the same vice stop on each one of them. I looked at the design and I thought, yeah, that looks like a really useful design. So I've kind of gone from memory of what I saw and based it around materials availability that I've already got here. So there's 4 main components to it. There's the main piece that fits on the back of the vise, and there's going to be a bit of turning work and milling work on that. There's a coupling piece with a couple of flexures on it. There's a diameter piece itself that does the bridge from the back of the vise to the sort of edge of the vise, if you like. And then there's the pin, as yet undimensioned because I don't know what material stock I've got for that yet. So, but an array of pins to fit through that, some cranked and some just straight. So what I'll do first is we'll get some materials together, start cutting some stock off, and then we'll get into the machining on the various bits and pieces. And I think I'm going to tackle the main big one first. So I'll bring you back when we're setting some material up, probably in the lathe, in the forge yaw, to turn this diameter. Right then guys, we've got the 2 bits of stock squared up in the mill. This is for the long piece that fits to the back of the vise, and this is the second piece that's going to attach onto the end of here when it's done. So that's both of those squared up. We've got it set up in the lathe in the forge yaw, and all I've done is clocked the centre of the flat, both sides, and it's within a thou all the way around. Not that important for what I'm doing really, if I'm honest, but I've got it as close as I need to get it. And what I'm going to do now is just put a marker, and here's a tip: if you're doing something like this, if you mark it up towards, so the last, the mark that you're putting on, the very last piece of the mark here towards the chuck is my actual dimension. So the back of that line that I've just put on there is my actual dimension, plus a bit of facing stock on here. So as I'm turning down and I can see that mark, as long as I don't obliterate that mark completely, I know I've still got stock left on my final length. It's just a bit easier if you do it that way. So I think one side will be enough for me to see when it's spinning. So what we're going to do now is face off, centre drill, put the centre in, and then we're going to turn this diameter down here for the location diameter that will bore a hole in here to fit onto that. So I'll bring you back when we got the first, putting the first facing cut on this end. Right guys, we've got our first bit set up in the vise on a parallel. I'm just going to take the parallel out, and the next job we've got our wobble bar in, so we're just going to, our edge finder, so we're just going to touch on, find the centre line, find the end of the block, and then we're ready to put our holes in. Right, there we go guys, that's got that piece complete. So that will sit on the back of the vise, screwing into the two existing holes that are already on there. The next job now is to set up the smaller piece that goes onto here, and we've got some holes to drill and some smaller holes to drill and tap in that. So here's the next bit set up in the vise. We've got a big hole to put through this way and a small hole next to it, drilled and tapped. Actually no, I'll say that again, we've got a big hole to put in this way and a small hole at 90 degrees to it, drilled and tapped, and then we've got the same thing at 90 degrees on this end of the bar. So what I've done is I've set, in the absence of a vise stop, I'm just using a bit of ground stop set up against the edge of the vise jaws, so that I'll try and do everything up against this end as one setup, if you like. So I've only got to use the edge finder once to find one end of the block, and then I can just whip the block round to get all the other setups, hopefully. So I'll bring you back when we've found the edges and we're starting to put the first hole in. Right, this hole is going to be for clamping up the flexure. So each of these big holes, there's going to be a big hole here and a big hole at 90 degrees going through this way, with a slot going through and a flexure, which will be an M6 clamped with an M6 screw cap head. So this is the 5mm drill, which is tapping drill for M6. So we'll put this all the way through, and then we'll put the clearance drill for M6 down just past halfway, where we're going to put the slot through for the flexure. So we'll put this one through first. we go guys, that's got that bit done. So 2 big holes, and they're at 16mm, and 2 small holes, M6, clearance one side, tap the other, and that's the same both ends. So you can see what we're going to do now. Eventually we're going to split through here to create a flexure, and the M6 screw will sit through this hole and tighten down to clamp up on this flexure that we create. Now the next job, this is just drilled 16mm, I need to open that out to 18mm, so the next job now is back onto the lathe. That's why I didn't take the 4-jaw off while I had it on. We're going to set this back up in the 4-jaw, set up on each of these holes and bore them out to 18mm, which is a close fit on my first piece that you see me make, the shaft. So we'll do that now. Right, we'll try that. So we'll find the low point, which is about on that 5. So that's within 10 thou. So that's minus, that's plus. That's somewhere there. That's within a 1/10. So I'll just reposition the camera and we'll start boring that out. So it's bang on 18mm, well, about 0.002 over. So this should theoretically yeah, that's a good fit. Happy with that. Right, we'll just get that countersunk both sides, and then the next operation then onto the bandsaw, just put the 2 slits in for the flexure. Right guys, we're just putting the split in each end of this for the flexure. I'm using this crappy thing, honestly it's rubbish, it really is rubbish. So now I've got my welding table, I mean look at it. Now I've got my welding table set up and I've got some spare steel kicking about from making the welding table. One of the next things I'm going to make is a decent table for this when it's in the vertical plane, because this is just rubbish. But anyway, it will do for now for putting these splits in. So I've marked my centre line out and put a, obviously you can see I've put a bit of a fence on there. So we'll just have a go at putting the slots in. Right guys, on with the next piece. I need an 18mm tight fine limit diameter, about 110mm long. This is the closest bit of stock I can find. I don't know what it is, it's unknownium, it's carbon steel of some sort, obviously because of the rust. It's a really oddball size actually, it's about 21mm, something like that, so not a standard size. I don't know how old it is, where I got it from, what it is, but we're going to face that off, centre drill it, put the revolving centre in and turn my fine limit diameter down, and then we'll, at the end, we're going to drill and tap for M6 in this end, and then we'll part it off. Here we've got a carriage locked off, parting off tool, square to the axis of the lathe, measured in 110mm, finished length, plus probably half a mil. I'll see what the parting finish looks like. If I need to skim it, I've got a bit of stock. Really unimportant this length, it's not critical. So we'll just part that off now. Right guys, final bit of machining. So this is the 18mm diameter bar that I've just turned with the tapped hole M6 in the end. We're now going to drill a cross hole through for the actual stop bar itself to locate through and be held in place with a grub screw in that end. So I've got that held in a collet block in the vise, nice and simple. So we're just going to drop a hole. I'm going to need to be careful with this. Two things, considerations with this. I'm going to be breaking through into a tapped hole, so I need to go nice and steady. Second thing is I've got no reamer the size that I need for the bar stock that I've got that I'm going to feed through this. So what I'm going to do is use two drills, basically a 4.2, and then I'm going to follow that down with a 4.8 and hope that I get near enough size for what I need. So we'll give that a go. So just a tip there, if you're doing anything like this and you're drilling into a round surface like I am here, nice and steady, preferably a spot drill. Well, centre drill's equally good I guess, but the beauty of a spot drill is you can go out to a diameter bigger than the diameter of the next drill that's going to go down behind it. Therefore when the drill goes in, it's not going to be wanting to kick side to side. So just nice and steady when you're doing anything like that. If you're unsure, small end mill in and just spot face a small flat and then centre drill into that is the safest method, but I'm fairly confident that this will be okay. So we put our first drill in, which is either 4.1, 4.2, something like that I think. Right, I've had another look. I've actually found a reamer that's very close to size, so we're going to follow through the drill with that reamer and see if it's just, it might be a touch on the small side actually, but we'll give it a try. I've been lucky. That's absolutely perfect. So much so it's just holding itself in place. That's brilliant. Fantastic. Good. Right, we'll get that out, deburred, and the next job now is a bit of final just deburring, going over the bits, and then we'll drop them into the chemical black, which I'll do off camera. You've seen that hopefully plenty of times in my videos, and then I'll bring you back once we've done the chemical blacking and we're ready for the final assembly. Well, there we go guys, that's got that complete. So, and fitted, you can see I've made the square section piece the same width as the vise. Fortunately it almost finishes flush with the top of the vise based on the size of the square. Not quite, it's slightly sub-flush, but another benefit of this is when taking the vise on and off the table, I've now got a good handle at the back that I can get hold of to help lift it off the table nice and easily, which is good. And this is, as Joe points out on his video, infinitely adjustable for all different angles, all different sizes, and you could make different bars, cranked ones, straight ones, you know, the sort of, I don't know why you need too many, but if you've got a specific job of a certain size, you needed to be getting underneath or inside parallels or whatever, that you couldn't get just with the general articulation that this has got, and it has got really good articulation. You could have this split piece with the flexures in facing downwards or facing upwards. There's just no limit to the amount of ways that you can move this thing around, and I could move this right out to the extremes and move this obviously right out to extremes, which would get me out to somewhere about here, which is far enough away from the vise for a vise stop. You know, any further than that and you'd be screwing something to the table. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that. Something that I've been needing for a long time. I've been sort of lining things up with the edge of the vise using parallels and bits of block and things like that you'll have seen me doing. So this is going to make a very nice addition to the milling machine. So I'll cut this here, and we're just going to finish this episode with a bit of a look around the shop, which could be a teaser. Right then guys, that's the side of the shop that you're mainly used to seeing me working in and around. You can see the lathe, the mill, the saw and the end of the bench, and that's what figures in most of my videos really. So I thought what we'd do is just switch around and have a look at the other side of the shop, which is a side that you don't get to see very often, and just to kind of show that. So I'll just move the camera and we'll have a quick look at that now. So here we are looking at the other side of the shop, and you can see right in the corner, this is my old sort of DIY toolbox, full of junk really, but useful junk. So screwdrivers, pliers, spanners, it's basically everything that I've used over the years for DIY. There's plumbing equipment in there, there's clamps, there's all sorts of stuff. So that lives in here for now. And next to that you can see the cabinet that I bought with the surface plate on the top, and above that, as I've shown a long time ago in one of my videos, is the sort of information station that's not really been getting a lot of use over the winter, but there's sort of monitor and tablet for viewing drawings and things like that on, so that's there. And then if we pan slightly more to the right, we see the Taylor Hobson engraving machine, which has moved slightly, and then if I pan a little bit further across, wait a minute, what's that?